All right, let's just dive straight into it. We literally just wrapped up an absolutely historic, mind-blowing group stage and round of 32. We started with 48 teams, and now we are down to the elite Sweet 16. The stakes have never been higher. So today, in this explainer, we're going to use the data to build what we're calling a pyramid of excitement. We'll be counting down all 8 matchups of the round of 16, starting right at the base with some highly anticipated games and working our way all the way up to the absolute peak, the #1 most hyped match of the tournament right now.
So, here's our roadmap for the climb today. First, the continent report. Second, the lopsided duels. Third, underdog ambitions. Fourth, history and rivalries. Fifth, the Brazilian enigma. And sixth, the 4 horsemen. Let's get to it.
Section 1, the continent report.
Before we get into the nitty-gritty of individual matches, we've got to zoom out for a second, right? What is the macro-level story of this World Cup so far? How are the different regions actually stacking up against each other? It's actually wild. The Americas are absolutely dominating this tournament. All 3 host nations, the USA, Canada, and Mexico, have successfully advanced to the top 16, right alongside absolute powerhouses like Argentina, Brazil, and Colombia. But then, man, look at the sharp drop-off for Africa. Coming out of the group stages, they had a staggering 9 out of 10 teams advance. 9. And now, only 2 survived the round of 32, Morocco and the absolute heroes of the tournament, Cape Verde.
Part 2, the lopsided duels.
Starting at the base of our pyramid, we've got the heavy favorites, matches 8 and 7. Let's talk Argentina versus Egypt first. For Argentina, the magic number right now is 7. Why? Because Lionel Messi already has 7 goals in this tournament. The guy is pushing 40 and still playing like an absolute alien. It's no wonder the bookies have firmly positioned Argentina as the 2nd overall favorite to win the whole thing. But there is a bit of a catch here.
It's what we call the Argentine paradox. On one hand, you have Scaloni ball, this gorgeous, highly technical flowing style built perfectly around the greatest player of all time, with Emiliano Martinez acting as a total brick wall in goal. But on the flip side, their game state management is actually kind of a mess. When they take the lead, they completely lose control of the match. We saw it in 2022 against Saudi Arabia, the Netherlands, and France, and they literally just did it again when they let Cape Verde back into the game twice. Still, despite that vulnerability, their sheer talent should be enough to overpower a pretty underwhelming Egyptian squad. I'm seeing a tight, pragmatic 1-0 win for Argentina.
Which brings us right to our next matchup, Colombia taking on Switzerland. Look, for the Swiss, their entire game plan basically rests on the shoulders of one man, Joan Manzambi. Without him, their attack is completely flat. With him, sure, they're a top 10 threat. But Colombia? They aren't just a one-man show. They've got a complete, terrifying squad led by an MVP-caliber Luis Diaz, incredible fullbacks, and a ferocious mentality. Because they're dominant all over the pitch and not relying on a single player, our data gives them a massive 70% probability to take this. Expect a really comfortable 2-0 win for Colombia.
Moving on to Section 3, the ambition of the underdogs. We're climbing higher up the pyramid now to matches 6 and 5. This is where teams aren't just happy to participate, they want to shatter the established footballing order. Check out this staggering number, 31.9 million. That's how many viewers tuned in to watch the USA's last match against Bosnia. To put that into perspective, that completely smashes the record for any soccer game in US history. It's actually higher than their viewership for the NBA Finals. The entire country is completely galvanized, and they are riding a massive wave of momentum into Seattle to face Belgium.
But here's the crucial point. The US isn't just surviving on good vibes and crowd hype. They are tactically superior right now. The Americans have this incredibly dynamic setup with devastating wingbacks and a highly functional midfield. Meanwhile, Rudy Garcia's Belgium, they look totally out of sorts, desperately shuffling lineups just to find a rhythm. So despite the historical pedigree, the USA is just better athletically, mentally, and tactically today. The model gives the Americans a super confident 65% probability here. We're projecting a dynamic 3-1 victory for the States. Next up in underdog territory, Canada versus Morocco. Now, Canada has done brilliantly to get here, but they have a fatal flaw. They don't have a true number 10. They desperately lack that creative midfielder who can operate in tight spaces to break down a defense, relying way too heavily on traditional wingers. Compare that to Morocco, who possess what is arguably a top 3 elite double pivot midfield in the entire tournament. Morocco is technically superior, rock solid at the back, and just much more dangerous going forward. This one leans heavily toward the North Africans. I'd pencil in a comfortable 3-1 win for Morocco.
Section 4, history and rivalries. All right, we're into the top half of our excitement pyramid now. Matches 4 and 3.
Honestly, you can just throw the tactics board out the window for a second because these games are going to be defined by incredibly hostile environments, historical bad blood, and pure, raw emotion. Take Mexico against England. This game is at the legendary Azteca Stadium, and the energy in Mexico right now is almost mystical. They are hunting for the sexto partido, that elusive sixth game. They're aiming to reach the top 8 for the first time in 40 years. If Mexico pulls this off, I swear the sheer energy from that fan base could probably power Mexico City for a decade.
But how does this actually play out on the pitch? On one side, you have the unmatched passion of the Azteca Inferno. That crowd is going to make it an absolute living nightmare for England. On the other side, you have an England squad that is surprisingly humble and incredibly battle-tested. Yeah, their defense can look vulnerable in transition, and short, Jordan Pickford is always good for a chaotic moment, but England's overall squad quality is just 2 levels above Mexico's right now. It's going to be fiercely contested, but expect English composure to secure a 2-0 win and silence the crowd.
And right next door, we've got the ultimate Iberian derby, Spain versus Portugal. The narrative here is just cinematic. It's the rising generation taking on the old guard. Our analysis gives Spain a solid 60% edge. Why? Because the young sensation Lamine Yamal is just starting to hit his stride, and Spain's relentless possession game literally starves you of chances. On the flip side, look, Portugal still has Cristiano Ronaldo, but the analytics are painting a harsh reality. His timing and finishing touch are noticeably fading. He's simply not the lethal finisher he once was. Expect a tense, tight 2-1 victory for Spain.
Section 5, the Brazilian Enigma.
We have officially reached match number 2 on our pyramid, the co-main event of the round of 16. And it is a tactical puzzle that has analysts completely scratching their heads, the highly unpredictable clash between Brazil and Norway. First of all, get a load of this historical stat. Norway has played Brazil 4 times in history, and they have never lost, 0 defeats. But the actual tactical reality is even wilder. Both of these teams share the exact same glaring vulnerability. They are terrible at defending their flanks. Norway leaves these massive spaces on the wings, which is absolutely terrifying when you're facing Vinicius Jr. But Brazil's fullbacks are equally exposed, which is exactly where Norway's blistering counterattacks want to operate. Because their flaws mirror each other perfectly, this is genuinely the most difficult match of the entire round to predict. It is a dead-even 50-50 split. The bookmakers favor Brazil, but the tactical matchups suggest absolute chaos. It's going to be a wide-open, end-to-end track meet. We are leaning ever so slightly toward a thrilling, high-scoring 3-2 victory for Brazil, but honestly, absolutely anything could happen here.
And finally, Section 6, the Horsemen of the Apocalypse. This is it, the absolute peak of our excitement pyramid, the #1 most hyped match of the round of 16, France taking on Paraguay, the ultimate David versus Goliath. Now, let's get one thing straight right off the bat. Do not confuse this Paraguay team with the Swedish side that France easily dispatched earlier. Under manager Gustavo Alfaro, this Paraguayan squad embodies pure, unadulterated South American grit. These guys are true fighters. They play with a knife between their teeth. Their mental resilience is off the charts, and they simply will not give up, even if they go down a goal early. They are going to drag France into an absolute physical war. But Paraguay has to figure out how to stop this. Just listen to this list. Mbappé, Dembélé, Barcola, Olise. People are literally heralding this front four as the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse: death, famine, war, and conquest. It is quite possibly one of the most terrifying, pacey, and lethal attacking quartets assembled in modern football history. So, as resilient and tough as Paraguay is, trying to hold back that 4-headed monster for 90 minutes, it's a monumental task. We project a clean, professional 2-0 victory for Les Bleus, marching them straight into the quarterfinals. Which brings us to our final, lingering thought. We've seen the data, we've scaled the pyramid, and we know the heavyweights are on a collision course. With historical upsets brewing, legendary players taking their final bows, and these terrifying new superpowers emerging, who will actually survive this gauntlet and lift that golden trophy on July 19th? The stage is set. Keep your eyes glued to the pitch, because this World Cup is about to get even crazier.